Hello and welcome to E-commerce Odyssey. Today we're talking to Dan Marsland from Payoneer, who are a leading online payment provider. Dan, could you perhaps start with telling us a bit about what Payoneer does?
Yeah, of course. So Payoneer are the largest marketplace payments specialist around the world. What we do is help predominantly marketplaces in this vertical to receive and send money around the world, as well as marketplace sellers to receive and send money around the world. As well as that, we also offer financing solutions and work with other verticals. So travel, Airbnb, Booking.com, people like
So
Getty Images
what percentage
as
of your
well.
business is marketplace sellers?
Probably about 30%, maybe a little bit more.
A lot of.
Yeah, so if you think of the business in general, it moves from the marketplace space, so Amazon, Walmart, and all of the others, and the sellers and the receivers on that side. And then if you look at the travel space, you're looking at, as I say, the Airbnbs, Booking.coms predominantly. Then you look at people like Adobe, people like Getty Images, and we service those clients as well.
Just explain to me, perhaps for our listeners, what is it that marketplace sellers, what specific requirements do they have that you solve?
Yeah, so as the internet economy has kind of gone global, it's allowed small businesses to be global business as well by using the rails that have effectively been developed by the industry and by the big players in the industry. So what we do is effectively make it easier for these now international businesses who are still small businesses to access international banking facilities and fast payments, which traditionally, if you were to rewind maybe 10, 15 years ago, it would have been nigh impossible to kind of transact in the same way and extremely expensive. So our motto is that we help people to transact as easily globally as they do locally, which is how the whole thing's kind of structured, how it's been structured up to now.
So I'll just use an example because my retail business is one of your clients. So what we do is we sell on Amazon in the UK, but also France, Italy, Germany, Spain, USA, Canada, Australia, Japan, UAE. And Amazon has this thing where it'll only deposit funds into a locally denominated bank account. So it'll only deposit euros into a bank account which is based in the Eurozone. It won't deposit euros into a UK-based euro account. So, it's very difficult for us as a business to set up a bank account in France or something like that. So we use your service, which provides us with a local bank account in these countries, and therefore we save the commission fee that Amazon would charge us.
Yeah, exactly.
We also have used when we were registered for VAT in Europe, we used to use your service to pay for our European VAT. And we've also, for example, sometimes we have like bills that we need to pay in euros, so we keep the balance in the Payoneer account, and we can pay in euros directly to people all around the world or whatever currency.
Yeah,
it works very well.
Yeah, exactly. If you think of an international bank account for businesses that isn't the bank, then Payoneer really are the market leader in that space.
Yeah, so we don't mean, for example, there's obviously it's not a checking account, so we don't, we don't have, it has some of the attributes of a bank account, but not others. So you can't do direct debits on it, or set up standing orders, but you can, what we would do is, Amazon would transfer for example, the euros into the Euro Payoneer account, and they'll sit there until we decide to transfer them to our UK bank account, and we charge, Payoneer would charge us a much lower rate for doing that than Amazon would. So saves lots of money, which is lovely. So I think my second question was, how does Payoneer help Amazon sellers? I think we've covered that.
Yeah, it's worth noting as well that obviously the space is relatively new on the Amazon side as well. And Amazon have just recently cracked down on that effectively. So they've now introduced the Amazon PSP program, payment service provider program, which effectively means that they can only now pay out to a select number of these PSPs that people were using to receive money from Amazon in this way. So I guess the most notable one that people should probably be aware of that aren't included are TransferWise. They've obviously had a decent impact in the European market, being based in London. They've seen some success, and I know some Amazon sellers use them. But yeah, with this PSP program, they can't effectively service Amazon sellers anymore. So as time goes on and as market matures, it becomes a lot more interesting in terms of the service we provide for Amazon sellers specifically. As I said, there's a lot of services that can't receive just because of the strenuous KYC, money laundering abilities that Amazon want these providers to have. And when you're using someone like Payoneer, who are effectively streamlined to offer this service to e-commerce and to Amazon, it becomes very important with regulation and things like that, that the providers kept up to date.
So I've got two questions that lead from that. One is, do you think, why is it that Amazon will only transfer funds locally and they won't? I mean, why is it that they don't transfer funds into a euro account in the UK?
It is just because of cost and
Is it
ease.
more expensive?
Yeah, so for them, they obviously can transfer across border, but it's just costly. Effectively, to offer a money service solution like we offer, you need a really in-depth banking network. I assume Amazon probably run it through a few of their banking partners and haven't really delved into the real banking network that they need in order to offer a comprehensive service at a cost-effective rate. So with that, obviously, their margins are high with their bank. They pass those high margins onto their customers, and even the time the payments take, etc., is quite long. So really, to build a platform like Payoneer, it takes years, and I don't think anyone's going to actually come into the market and do it and really disturb the market just because of the amount of time and effort it takes to operate in this space.
You know, the reason. So the reason that we use Payoneer is because, I mean, I'm just going to pick out. You know, they charge a lot more than you know. If we were, you know, Amazon will transfer your funds or convert it from, you know, the local currency into, in our case, GBP, but they'll charge us give us a rubbish conversion rate. Yeah. I mean, would there be a danger that Amazon will actually start offering people competitive conversion rates, and therefore you guys will be out of business?
Yeah, as I said, it's not their business. So effectively, I don't think they will, purely because, one, I guess they've got the scale, but for them to really delve into being a money service provider, they probably could do it, but it's a lot of effort and it takes away from their core product and their core capabilities. As well as that, I do believe that Amazon like having the ecosystem and developing the ecosystem as much as they can, which this effectively does. So if you have each of these PSPs that they're working with, promoting Amazon, and even having the conversations we're having today, it promotes the Amazon ecosystem. And right. That's the way they've seen success with their marketplace, with their affiliate programs and everything they've done. So I think there's a part of that. But yeah, I guess it's not really the biggest fish they've got to fry. And they still do make money out of it. Sellers that aren't aware of PSPs, there's many that are using Amazon services and they're being charged a bomb for it. So they're seeing some success there.
You've got people like me that are penny pinching and want to find a cheaper solution, but there's a lot of people out there presumably just do the default and don't worry about it.
Yeah, and they're the biggest marketplace in the world, so I think they like the marketplace aspect as well of it, to be honest.
Yeah. So I mean, there's certain countries. I mean, I think when we were, I mean, do you guys support Turkey? I don't know.
Yeah, so we support pretty much every country around the world.
Because the new ones are Turkey and Sweden and
the actual receiving. So not at the moment. To be honest, most of Turkey is sellers looking to go out of Turkey, and this is where we really see strength with ourselves. So PayPal can't serve Turkey, and other countries who haven't got the KYC capabilities we have can't serve Turkey, but we see a lot of success with serving the Turkish sellers who are selling maybe in the UK, Europe.
Yeah, because there's new. I mean, Amazon's new sites are that. I mean, you know, Saudi Arabia, Turkey, Sweden.
Yeah.
I mean, Saudi Arabia. I mean, it's difficult from a number of points of view, but Turkey and Saudi Arabia are difficult from a number of points of view. One is well, we can just use the Amazon's currency service. I mean, you know, it's what's available. And secondly, the returns don't have a return address, so don't know how that's going to work. How would you? Okay, new question. How would you? currency transactions, it's a commodity at one level. It's all about the commission that you get charged, and all other things being equal, you just go for the company with the lowest commission. How do you guys differentiate yourselves other than just being cheap?
Yeah, so I think that in the normal money markets, cost is obviously quite important. So when you're looking at maybe me selling you £5, then cost is probably the most important factor of that. You obviously want your money to arrive there and have the faith that your money's going to arrive there on time as well. But where we really start to differentiate ourselves is with our ability in the e-commerce space, as a space. So take, for example, yourself as an Amazon seller. We now have the ability to pick you up as an Amazon seller, to then offer you the payments product in every core Amazon market. You obviously mentioned Sweden there. That's soon to be coming on board with Payoneer. Singapore's on board, AED's on board. You can receive from India through Payoneer. So we open up all these doors, which other providers in the space just don't do. It's not as comprehensive. It never will be as comprehensive because it's not their core business. And this is something that we've really focused in on the e-commerce and Amazon with. Second to that, we would offer you the finance in order to reach those markets. The most cost-effective solution to Amazon sellers today is our financing solution. If you don't have special agreements with the bank, or you've got a big offline business where you can raise finance, it really is a black hole for funding the Amazon spaces. So we solve that problem for Amazon sellers. And then thirdly, we've got our green channel network, which effectively enables us to refer top Amazon sellers through a referral program internally to Payoneer. They then send it out to the marketplaces that the seller might be interested in. So you're thinking of the kind of C discounts of the world, the bowls.com, even the Walmarts. We can kind of build those flows into those marketplaces and make it a lot easier for sellers to sell on them, as well as obviously all the experience and advice we have in the e-commerce space specifically. So I think there's a lot of added value there, other than just moving money. I mean, if you could compare that to a business that doesn't do any of that, I mean, like a TransferWise maybe, who's just simply an online interface, you kind of miss out on all of that value that relationship brings, and all of the experience it brings. So yes, we're moving money, but secondly, there's kind of a lot more that we do.
Yeah,
And I
it's
think
true to say it's a bit like
valuable.
couriers. I mean, basically, you imagine these things are all created equal, and it's only when that they start to be rubbish that you realize that they aren't created equal. You just think, you kind of think, well, as soon as you start to have problems, you think, they're all the same, but actually they're not.
Yeah, I think as well, if you were to think of the money actually arriving, there's plenty of kind of dodgy FX brokers out there that would tell you money's going to arrive, but it doesn't actually arrive, or it arrives late.
Keep it for a few days.
Whatever problems there might be, there's definitely rogue dogs out there in the London space for sure, who act in those sorts of ways. So it still was quite a worry of just getting your money A to B of the fees that are said to be there. And yeah, I think that in terms of being a business, Payoneer are definitely the most professional in the space. And that's kind of evidenced with everything we're doing outside of just servicing the Amazon SMBs. So that's to say, now sending a large percentage of eBay's payouts to replace PayPal there, sending all the payouts for Walmart. So I think it's also the reputation of the business that we have on the line. And if an Amazon seller effectively can be comfortable that we're going to service them well because we have that reputation on the line, maybe some smaller player in the space who isn't as experienced or as big as Payoneer on the whole internet level, might be a little bit, might not have the reputation on the line, and might do things that a big company can't really afford to do.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, certainly. I mean, I certainly know that you guys offer a wider range of countries than some of the other providers, which is obviously great. It's great to get it all in one place at one time. Yeah, I mean, service we've been very happy with.
Yeah.
How do you find, because obviously you're, in the maelstrom of international trade and international currency transfers, how has Brexit affected? Have you seen volumes due to Brexit? Are they picking up again?
Yeah, so Brexit's definitely had an impact on the UK side. Of
What
course,
what you mean? What you mean that it hasn't, made things easier, and we're not like, we haven't done much better as a country. You surprise
Yeah,
me.
I think we should be over the bump relatively soon, though. I think definitely by the end of the year, I think the bump will be over in terms of sellers who aren't selling to Europe or vice versa. But yeah, definitely there's a lot of people in the space or companies in the space who have limited the amount they're sending to, or in stock they're sending to Europe, or maybe Europeans limiting the amount that they're then trading with the UK just because of a fear of the unknown and the uncertainty around the whole thing. So yeah, it definitely has had an impact. And I don't think we're quite ready to see the benefits in terms of everything else that the opportunity will bring. So like maybe the US opportunity, X, Y, and Z. So yeah, it'd be an interesting time, but I would expect everything would go back to normal. There's a lot of support throughout the industry with service providers and people to help people get back on their feet. So I think that will clear up, and I guess evidence of that is people finding innovative ways to get product into Europe, like going through the
Yeah, I mean,
Netherlands,
I
going through
think the
France.
couriers. I mean, from our point of view, the couriers have the issue is really. I mean, the currency stuff has been fine. The problem is understanding the VAT and everything. The understanding how to ship it into Europe was a bit of a problem, and the couriers didn't really understand it themselves. So, because you end up talking to the salespeople at the courier who don't necessarily understand how the whole system works, and
yeah,
you get things like who is the importer of record. That's quite important, and they didn't really, the ones that I talked to didn't really understand what that meant, and so I had to understand what it meant, and it's just it's all a bit of a struggle.
Yeah, I think it will clear up though. I think that there's not a kind of massive firm wall that's been placed there. I think with lobbying government and with different agreements that may happen as well, I think it will return back to normal sooner rather than later.
We found is, I mean, obviously previously we used to send a lot of small things via raw mail, untracked mail, but now because it's going into customs, you need a system, just fly through.
Yeah.
Because there was no border. Now it gets stuck at custom. Well, it has to go through customs, which means you need a courier that can basically do the customs clearance and can do the sort out the duty, which means it has to be, you can't just send it by raw mail anymore, a cheap raw mail service. It has to go via a courier. And then so that's more expensive. And then whereas previously the VAT was charged on a notional net value. So if you had £100 selling something for £100, there'd be £16 of VAT in there. Now they're charging you it goes into the Netherlands and they charge you 21% on the gross value. So you've gone from paying £16 to paying £21.
Yeah.
All to anyway.
I think we could all agree that it has made things
not all
harder,
of us,
though.
clearly. You and I can agree that it hasn't made things easier.
Yeah.
So where do you see, in this glorious global Britain, where do you see the opportunities for, where are people doing well? What export markets are people selling well into?
Yeah, I think it's a good question. Definitely, depending on which vertical you're in, there's definitely opportunities in some places compared to others. So I think if you're homeware, for example, there's been huge success with the UAE and receiving and sending receiving payment from there from
which channels are these people selling through?
So this is through like pretty much Amazon and their own e-commerce stores that we've seen. But yeah, it's people are hugely successful in the homeware sector there. So if it really depends on what you're doing, but I think the best way forward for sellers is to make the opportunity create the opportunity everywhere they can and make the most of it. So I think definitely expanding into places like Mexico, into the UAE, as I said, Singapore as well, another really lucrative market there's a huge expat market there, and people see huge success in the homeware section. Effectively, people in these countries change home like every 2 years, and they've got the wealth to be able to redo that home to a really high standard every couple of years. And then where do they go? They go to kind of Amazon, they go to online stores in order to ship it in from the UK or from the US. and these places do really well. So I think if you've got a niche like that you could take advantage of, then just give it some thought and really figure out where your product might do well and what the demographic of each country is like. But just in general, I think with the e-commerce space, you haven't really got much to lose by dabbling in any market that you can
with
potentially
Amazon.
dabble
I
in.
mean, the accounts are basically free to set up, and it's a catalog-based system, so you can just add your listings to the marketplace, and probably quite a lot of it's already there.
Yeah, exactly. And the US is going to be a big one for UK sellers when the ability to sell on Walmart opens up. I think that's where a lot of people head next.
I think that, I mean, at the moment you have to have a US nexus, as in is that going to change?
Yeah, so at the moment a lot of sellers are setting up a Delaware entity and then obviously trading through that onto Walmart.
You have to be shipping from the US, don't you?
Yes, but they are soon. Actually, yes, you have to have a warehouse in the US, but you can obviously use a third party for that. But they're recently changing the rules to enable foreign sellers and foreign entities to sell on Walmart. Obviously, they're starting with China, and then they're going to kind of develop that and roll it out further. From my perspective, there's a lot of demand for sellers to sell on Walmart and to have that pathway into Walmart. Which is completely understandable, but yeah, I think they're slowly rolling it out, and they're slowly
hopefully
going to open the doors up.
Be nice to diversify the number of American companies we give money to. That I give too much money to Amazon. I'd like to give some money to Walmart.
Yeah, it's such a fast-moving space, though. I think that the key thing for any seller to do is just to keep their eyes open to what opportunities are out there and then to jump onto them as soon as they can, really.
It's very sensible. So what are your views on the future of online payments? Or what trends do you see?
So the trend is definitely moving online, right? So
yes,
I think if you look at the retail, I was looking earlier today at the retail to e-commerce, or the kind of physical retail to e-commerce percentage difference, and before COVID it gone from like 6 to 11%, 12% over the course of a few years. With COVID it's probably significantly higher now. I know there's been a 45% increase in e-commerce from the start of COVID to kind of the peak of COVID, so it's definitely accelerated things. And I think that any industry out there, if you even step out of retail and you think of travel, for example, you think of anything, literally any industry, it's only moving more towards online if it's not already online. Reservations for and payment for restaurants and entertainment and everything that you do, you typically do for the internet now. So I think if you're a payments company and you're embedded in that space, the future of online payments, like you say, is only ever going to grow and it's only ever going to do well.
So are you guys going to start offering any, because obviously at the moment you do this kind of, you're kind of a intermediary, enabling people to accept international payments. Are you going to start offering a more kind of Stripe style payment service or that kind of thing? You're moving into other areas?
Yeah, I think acquisitions are definitely going to happen. At the moment, we actually orchestrate payments for large merchants. So if you think you're a big enterprise that's selling all around the world on your own website, we effectively handle the orchestration of any payment that goes through that website at the moment. And this is kind of separate from our existing business. And what that means is you've got a number of different payment channels, a number of different payment networks you can receive payment in from. And from the merchant's perspective, that's super confusing. So what we do is just help to orchestrate that, bring them all together into one place for the merchants themselves and make it a lot easier to handle that process and more cost effective as well. So we're kind of already in that space a little bit. With regards to the actual payment gateway side of things, it'll be interesting to see where we end up with the IPO that's going to be taking place in the next month or two. We're going to raise an awful lot of money. So I think that money is probably going to be invested into acquiring some businesses, as you would expect. But yeah, who those businesses are, I'm not quite sure myself. I'm sure.
Right, you haven't been told.
I'm sure there are probably deals being done within Payoneer, but yeah, unfortunately, I'm not at that level yet.
So, okay, last question. What has inspired you recently?
What's inspired me recently? I think within this, a few things. I think from a payments perspective and from an online perspective, the whole movement of COVID online, as unfortunate as COVID's been in a lot of places and still is in a lot of places, I think it's been amazing being able to see the changes that it's brought from the position that I'm personally in, working for an online payments company effectively, especially it works in e-commerce. It's been super interesting to see everything and to see the movements, and to be in that space is super inspiring and interesting to wake up to every day. And then you look at the kind of valuations that have been thrown around, like the Stripe 95 billion. It's just interesting having a foot in that space. But from the Amazon perspective, I'd probably say the most interesting thing at the moment is the kind of acquiring roll-up situation that's taken place, where
the Amazon sellers,
these large acquisition companies are kind of coming in and investing almost private equity into these businesses to scale them up and to really change the space. I'm not sure. What are your thoughts about that as a seller yourself?
Well, obviously it's a bit different to what I do. I think that, I mean, it's a bit of a bun fight at the moment. It must be interesting to be an FBA seller, especially a successful one. I think that they can only really do it because they obviously, these companies are valued at 30 in a multiple of 30, and they're buying these FBA sellers at a multiple of 2 or 3 or something. I wonder how sustainable it is, because I mean, fundamentally, they're going to end up with a lot of very small products. I mean, what happens is these FBA sellers develop 2 or 3 products and they get them up to the top of the Amazon search. And then they obviously, it's quite hard. I mean, I know I've got a business a bit like this, you get to a few million turnover and it's quite hard to grow it. Yeah. And you need to start spending money on lots of different things. And I think that, they're basically buying these FBA sellers very cheaply, it would appear, and then rolling them up. But I mean, one of 2 things. One is, I'm guessing with so many different companies entering this space, the price of these companies have gone up enormously, and therefore it's probably they're not as cheap as they once were, and therefore their business won't be as profitable as it once was. And 2, I mean, they're going to end up with a lot of very, very different products, and very different, made in very different factories. Is that a good business model? I don't know. I mean, obviously they probably must know an awful lot more about it than I do, but it obviously, I mean, with FBA sellers, you don't have all this infrastructure you have to buy, because they're getting it made in a factory in China and shipping it over to the UK, but they'll all be making a few products, and so you're going to end this massive portfolio of products. How do you tie it all together? Don't know.
Yeah. But even it's
interesting
perspective. But I think
well.
From this, just from the kind of space in general, I think it's super inspiring, super interesting being in the space that's changing so rapidly, to be honest with you. It's just crazy, really. Like, you think of, I think I've been working in the space for Payoneer now for about 3 years. So I think when you look at you can single out an event in each of these years that's been huge, and whether that would be through the changing of payments, which is obviously rapidly changing, or through the change of e-commerce, which is rapidly changing. I think it's a really interesting place to be. Outside of work, though, I'm probably inspired by Man United going to another final, hopefully, after today's
really, how exciting. But is it the Glaziers that own it, isn't it? They're not. Are you a fan?
Yeah, I'm not so inspired by that, but yeah, hopefully they're set up for the 4 billion or whatever it is, and we get a nice rich shake from the Middle East somewhere.
That's what you want. You want like an owner that is just basically got pots of cash, that doesn't take any interest in it, and has it as a vanity project, bit like Roman Abramovich.
Yeah, we could hopefully get some do Man City, but we were good before we got the money, so hopefully we can be even better. But we'll see where that goes.
Dan, it's been great talking to you. Thanks very much for your time.
Cheers.
and maybe we can talk again in a few months when Payoneer is gone to its IPO and we know what's happening.
Yeah, cool. Sounds good.
Okay.
Thanks for having me.
Nice to speak to you. Bye bye.
Cheers. Bye bye.